Hi, I'm the real Leonard Scott Collins. Don't believe what you see on television. I'm here to try to make money doing yoga on the internet. Today we're going to try to get a little deeper into our pigeon poses. I have some bolsters here to support my pelvis so that I can show you what the next couple of steps look like. But first we gotta warm up because it's tough to stretch your muscles when they're cold. I haven't planned anything for this. Oh, sorry. Oh, that's embarrassing. Why don't we just start with a couple of cat cows? Make sure those wrists are centered under your shoulders. And your knees are under your hips. Curl your toes under and come up into a foreshortened down dog. Straighten those back knees. Press into the hands. Take turns bending the knees. Try and open up. Get some sense of lengthening in the hamstrings. Come back down, a couple more cat cows. Up again. See if you can cross both of the heels a little closer towards the floor. Keep the legs straight as you walk forward into your plank pose. Now again, up into down dog. Take a few breaths here, straightening the back legs. On the inhale, compressing through the hands. Let the shoulders fly up the back. Bring the chest a little closer. To the ground. Now, I've removed my left hand and brought my left foot forward to where the left hand was. I'm keeping the back foot straight, the back knee straight rather. The toes of the back foot are curled under. And here I'm just going to try to relax down to a flat back. And back up into down dog. Then move the right hand, right foot where the right hand was, and try to work here, gently straightening the back leg. We're still warming up here a little bit, so if this isn't as deep a stretch, you find yourself up here, that's okay. Back up into your down dog. Just hang out here for a couple of breaths. Straighten those back legs. Bend the elbows. See what you can do about curling the hips up. Come down to a modified table posture. Put your elbows under your shoulders, your knees under your hips. Cat cows here. Come back up into a down dog. Walk the hands back. Walk the hands back. Straighten the legs. Bring the feet together. Try hanging out in your forward fold. For 10 breaths. Come forward back to that plank. Hang out here. Straight back legs. Back up into that down dog. See now if it's easier to keep your back, keep your legs straight. All right, now we're gonna start on the left side. Bring the left leg forward into that pigeon pose and work. You may want to work that back leg even further back gently so that your weight starts activating down into the hips. See if you can bring the upper body up, thinking tall as your lower body sinks down into the pose. On the inhale, think of getting taller. On the exhale, think of getting more deeply rooted. All right, curl the toes under, press through the hands, come back up into your downward dog, 3 more breaths here. Now bring the right leg forward. Left knee in front of the right knee in front of the right hip. Right foot in front of the left hip. Again, you might want to work that back leg back. And thinking tall, to relax down. All right, curl the toes of the back foot under, press through the hands to come back up into down dog, straighten the legs, and hang out here for 3 more breaths. If you're still having trouble straightening the legs, straighten them one at a time. Bend the opposite leg for support, so that you're not afraid to put your body weight into those hamstrings. You're not afraid of the stretch you're getting. Now, move a bolster in place. That's going to sort of end up under your hips. Left leg forward again. You see where that bolster is? It's under my left hip, but under and back behind, sort of, so that when it comes across through the center, it's also kind of under my right hip. And I want to work straight down into the bolster. So if there's a little bit of weight, it's starting to press evenly between the right and the left hip. I suspect your inclination is going to be to want to roll down toward the left. Easing the strain in the top of the right thigh. And you're going to feel like, oh, okay, yeah, my weight's down. But across the back, it's going to be very crooked. There's going to be a bunching to the right side of the body. So you don't want to do that. The pose is, and in a way it's sort of a preparation for your scissor split, but it only is if it has the desired effect on the top of the right thigh. Now, first layer of advancement is to raise the hands. Then pop that back leg up. Then if you can, reach the hands around and fold the fingers. Lace the fingers like this. Around the ankle. If you're not finding the stretch in the top of that right thigh, this is really going to show you where it is. Using the abdominal muscles to help keep your posture upright. And twisting the chest open to bring the hand back. Now, I'm going to rest forward a little bit over my left leg, and that's going to deepen the stretch in the back of my left thigh through the buttock. This is adding to the hamstring. And as I do this, I'm going to want to stretch that right leg long, long, long back behind me. I'm going to come up again, bring my hands into prayer, bend that back knee, and then see if I can reach it with the opposite hand. And I can't. So, a few more breaths here in supported, very basic pigeon pose with the back leg long. Try to get taller. Press down into the bolster through, try to keep it even through both hips. Now, come forward. Press your hands. Tuck the back toes under and press through the hands to come up into a downward dog. Straighten those knees. That's a little easier now. Keep those knees straight. And press through the hands. Use the exhale to lower those heels down to the floor. Now, bring the right foot forward. Again, right knee is in front of the right hip. Right foot is in front of the left hip. Work that back leg back. This side seems a little less even. I'm more inclined to want to work this way on this side. Maybe because I just did all that work in the back of the left thigh, so maybe the front of the left thigh is freaking out. Or maybe just because I have a left-right difference in my body. If I were going to do this pose again tomorrow, and we may, but not this deeply, I would start on the right side to see what the explanation is. To see if the right side is easier when I go first, or if it's always more challenging on the right side. Now, if you're starting to feel the weight come down into your bolster, come up, hands in prayer. Bend the left knee and reach back with the hand. Oh. If you need to put the right hand back down to support because you're feeling the stretch too deeply across the thigh, I have to go back to this. Wow, that's really deep across the top of the left thigh. I'm going to come up gently, back into my downward dog. Roll my bolster to the side so it's a little taller. And then come back into the pose, but with a taller bolster to give me more support across the hips. These are just sofa cushions. Pretty neat sofa cushions. They're from IKEA, I think. I like the shape of them, and nice, big, quite firm. I mean, if you go to a yoga shop, you can pay a lot of money for bolsters and everything else. But you can also just go to the dollar store and buy cheap yoga mats and roll 2 or 3 of them together. Get a nice, thick, firm piece of foam, or use bed pillows, or I don't want to sound like you can just use anything, because what you're going to need to use is actually very specific depending on your needs. So you're going to find as you experiment that you're unhappy with stuff more often than you're happy with it. Okay, so again, as I start to press through here, I'm going to come up, bend the back leg, put my left arm over the left ankle, and then start trying to work my right arm back to lace the fingers over the shin. And I want to keep breathing here. Talking helps, or making noises, blah, 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 helps remind us to breathe. Just 3 more breaths here. And relax down slowly. Press through the hands. Feel more supported. Breathe way deep down into the abdomen to let go any tension that might creep in across the lower back. And lay forward here.
This is harder too. Look, I have to rest my forehead on my hands. It is the right ankle that I injured. And so maybe compensating for the injury too is affecting the way I behave on the right side of my body over the last couple of weeks. So this unrollable hip might be partly due to that as well. There we go. Now my forehead's down. All right, I'm going to come up.
So my hip is speaking to me very loudly. Come up tall, tall, tall. Breathe down into the hip. Try to let some of that tension go. Now, hands down in front of the knees, curl the back toes under, press through the hands to come up. And again, we'll spend a few more moments here. In our downward dog.
Walk through the heels and finish with the legs straight.
Now, come down and press up into cat pose. Cow, cat. Curl the toes under, come up into downward dog.
And release forward into a forward fold. Bring the knees together. Straighten the legs for your hamstrings. Bend the knees slightly to curl those hips up. And feel lengthening in your back. This is just, we're doing this as a counter pose to the back bend we did, coming up into the pigeon.
Lock the hands forward. Come out into your downward dog. And now one last time, bring the left leg forward without the bolster. And we'll just stay here. For 10 breaths. And see what our bodies have learned. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Curl the toes under, back up into your downward dog. Straighten the legs, press through the hands. And now, one last time, bring the right leg forward. See if you can breathe down. Feel the breath rolling the meat of the thigh down the pelvis. Three more breaths. Curl the toes under, press through the hands, come back up into your downward dog. Bend the knees and come back into child's pose. If, like me, you have a hard time with child's pose, your hips don't go down to your heels,
Put a bolster under your forehead and see if that changes anything. For me, it really doesn't.
I mean, I would have to be almost here. This is where my hips start to touch my heels. Any further down than that and I pop up. Watch. There I am, hips on heels. Still a little bit, there. Off. So now, I'm going to put this large bolster down, just to make life a little gentler. I'm going to come to the edge of the bolster so that I can still get the left knee on the ground, and then into the crook of my left elbow, I'm going to place the knife of my right foot. Just rock back and forth, adding a little bit of dynamic, little bit of energy to the joints we were just working in a static way. This is the same kind of stretch. See, at least my left leg is in the same shape as my foreleg in Pigeon. So this is very much like being in Pigeon pose and then lying forward with my face on the ground, as I showed you. the difference is the foot isn't pressed into the floor, so I have a chance to give it a little bit of play. Now, the opposite leg. See, come forward on your bolster so the knee of the left leg touches the ground, and then the knife of the right foot goes into the crook of the left elbow. And again, here we go. Yeah, this is where I feel the difference in that right hip again. Very, very challenging on this side. So if my hip were really, really open and my abs were really, really strong and this would come up, then this would be a pose that I were able to do with a flat back, tall, 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 powerful sitting pose. But because none of those things are true of my instrument right now, this actually gives me a spinal roll, which counters the back bend we've been doing in Pigeon. So there's that healthy benefit as well. All right. Legs forward. Now this is neat sitting on a block or a bolster. What we were talking about yesterday with our forward folds. About how, you know, your spine coming to 90 degrees out of your hips. But if you elevate your hips, then you don't need to come to 90 degrees. You add a little bit of weight. While still allowing the muscles of the legs to be quite passive. That feels good. All right, that's Wednesday. I hope you're having a nice week, and we'll be back again tomorrow with yoga.